Watch and burn.
Hey everyone. So tonight I wanted to discuss the first of 11, technically 12, but 11 unique releases that Relapse put out through their Desolation House sub-label. And that first record that was released back in 2000 or 2001 was Subterranean Source Vivid Circles. And that, of course, is what I will be discussing here tonight. Desolation House was a dark ambient sub-label of Relapse, like I just said, that had released 11 completely separate works by 10 different artists. Subterranean Source bookend the releases. They did the first as well as the last. And in between there's a whole number of people involved. There's Grunt Splatter, Kepler's Odd, Japanese Torture Comedy Hour, which was Scott Hall and Jay Randall from the Agoraphobic Nosebleed, and Scott Hall also doubled in Pig Destroyer. He used to play guitar in Anal Cunt. Their Noise Project. Rise of Because has a Noise Project released on here. Bastard Noise has a release on here with Christian Renew. And so I've decided to talk about 12 of these, even though the 12th release is technically not anybody in particular. It groups all of the people together on one solid release that, and each person who put out an album, or the people, who put out an album, each contribute one unreleased track, and that made up the 12th release. But like I was going to say, the reason that I'm choosing to talk about these is because I felt like these were sort of criminally neglected as far as things that Relapse have done, because it seems like everything Relapse did got a significant amount of attention, and these seem to slip right between the cracks. Now, as of me recording this first one here about Subterranean Sources Vivid Circles, I've reached out to Relapse to find out more information as to whether or not did each of the releases sell out, how did they sell, and I don't know if whether or not they're going to release that information to me, but I am going to discuss all 12 of these, so hopefully by the time that's done, I have some answers from Relapse, because that would be awesome. The other thing that was really neat about this was each release represents 1 hour on a 12-hour clock, and the clock is represented somewhere on the back of the digipack that the albums came in. And so this is Subterranean Sources Vivid Circles, so that represents 1 o'clock. And like I said, there's 12 in total. 11 if you count releases from people, but 12 overall. And I think I loved, oh my God, there's so many good things to say about this. Subterranean Source, really, I don't know, it's funny, the artwork for each of these releases really complement the music, and the music complements the artwork. The artwork from this has a series of like foggy looking trees off in the distance, and that's kind of how this album plays out. It's very heavy, it's very foreboding, and I mean, you could argue that about all of these, but I will say a lot of people have a real negative, an automatic negative opinion of dark ambient stuff because they all feel that it sounds the same. And I guess if the person doesn't really know what they're doing or they don't care enough, I suppose that could be part of the problem, why people end up saying that stuff about this. But with each of these, it feels like everybody was at the top of their game, and the Subterranean Sources Vivid Circles is a hell of a way to kick this off because it has so much atmosphere, and the songs, although in typical dark ambient fashion, they are incredibly long. They're varied, they're well written, they're really diverse, and there's a lot of surprises kind of like scattered throughout. Like, for example, the album begins with a heavy sense of like fog, like ambience where, you're lost in the woods, so to speak. But then by the end, there's a lot of percussive elements that kick in that keep things going and make things really interesting. And getting percussive with dark ambient releases, it usually doesn't happen. They usually try to keep it sort of drenched in horror, and they try to keep it as like staticky as possible. And that, unfortunately, I found was the Bastard releases, the third hour, the brainstorming. I just didn't like that, but eventually I'll get to that. But with this, I found that the initial sense of sort of foggy doom gives way to, I suppose you could argue, sort of like a cinematic chase scene where you are being chased through the woods by whatever entity's out there and it's hunting you or whatever, because the drums and the percussive elements kick in, and it does give a real rising sense of terror and tension. and then the album just ends. And I found that it was a really great way to sort of keep things interesting because, like I said, for the most part, people make assumptions regarding dark ambient releases that the first 5 minutes are going to be the rest of all the minutes, and the person essentially just presses the one key on the keyboard and tapes it down and walks away. Which again, I couldn't disagree with more, and especially not with anything that Relapse would release. These releases are all varied, even the ones I didn't like, which were predominantly the noise releases from Bastard Noise and Christian Renew, as well as Rise of Because and the Japanese Torture Comedy Hour. I'm just not wild about noise, but I won't spend too much time talking about that now because inevitably I'm going to be discussing those probably tonight. Or maybe not. I have no idea what I'm doing here. I've been listening to them a lot lately, and that's why I'm choosing to talk about them. And like I said at the beginning of this, I felt that they were so overlooked, and there was so much here to dig into. And I thought Subterranean Sources Vivid Circles was a hell of a way to kick the 12 hours off. But this is a little over 6 minutes long, so I'll leave it there. If you are a fan of incredibly well-produced, meaningful, and insightful, and driven, and ambitious dark ambient, the Desolation House releases are a fantastic place to find some real varied works from a number of people who are definitely sort of at the top of their game when they released these. Now, as far as being able to find these, it's hit or miss. When you check them out on Amazon, some of them you can get for like $8. Some of them you can't find at all, especially the Japanese Torture Comedy Hour, because it's Randall and Hull, and they're fairly well known, so their stuff sells out quick. Some, like I said, you can find cheap. Some you can't find at all. But I'm sure they're on YouTube somewhere. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't checked. But yeah, so look, I'm going to go. Thank you so much for sitting with me while I discuss Subterranean Source Vivid Circles for Relapse's sub-label Desolation House, Hour 1. And yeah, if you like this video, don't forget to do something nice for somebody because it's awesome, and it's awesome. And yeah, so don't forget to like and subscribe as well. I really appreciate it. And have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.